appreciate y'all coming out on such a cold morning here in January. It's a pretty good turnout. I think it's probably one of the larger turnouts that I've had so far since I've started my campaign. Like Lewis said, my name is Doug Kidd. I'm an attorney up in Livonia, Georgia, which is in Franklin County in the northeast part of the state. I'm a solo practitioner up there. Actually, I've got another attorney in my firm, so we're a small law firm. I'm a general practice attorney. I do civil litigation, a little personal injury. I write wills, do some incorporation and business work. Pretty much anything. If the client has a check that'll pass through the bank, then I'll take their case. To tell you a little bit about myself, grew up in Henry County, a little bit south of Atlanta, the McDonough area. Graduated high school there in about 1999 and went to Georgia Southern down in the southeast part of the state. And majored in journalism and met my wife down there. And we got married and moved to Chattanooga, where I worked for the newspaper up there as a copy editor and page designer. Decided to go to law school, went down to Stetson in Florida, and spent 3 years down in Florida and had a good time down there, but graduated in 2008 and passed the bar exam. Got my results back Halloween night of 2008, and if many of y'all remember what was going on at that time, pretty much the whole world was on fire, it seemed like, with the economic recession. Everything was going bad, law firms were going under, and I didn't have a job coming out of law school. So I decided to move to my wife's hometown and start my own law practice, and that's what I've been doing for the past 6 years, practicing law up there. How many people in here are Georgia Power customers? How many people are EMC customers? A handful. Well, if you're a Georgia Power customer like me, you probably get your bill every month and take a look at the bottom of it, and you see all these extra added on fees for nuclear reactors that aren't online yet that we're paying for. And you see rate increases that seem to be happening every year. The rates go up, they don't go down. And if you're like me, you kind of look at your own checkbook and you see that the money in your checking account is not as much as it used to be. It seems like more and more of your money is going to either the power company or the gas company or the telephone company or the cable company or the internet company. And so, like many of y'all, I decided to actually do something about it. So that's why I decided to run for Public Service Commission. I'm challenging Bubba McDonald, who's a longtime incumbent, who's a longtime politician here in the state. And we've got the campaign started, and I've got a lot of good responses so far. The one good thing that I think that I'm going to do in this campaign is actually tell people what the Public Service Commission does. It seems like every group that I get in front of, nobody knows. But the Public Service Commission, there are 5 of them commissioners in this state. They regulate the utilities, power company, gas company, phone company. They do a lot of other little stuff too, like regulate interstate transportation. But those are the main 3. So that's what we're doing right now, is trying to travel the state and let people know exactly what the Public Service Commission does. One of my main issues is the diversification of the energy portfolio, which is just basically fancy language that we would need to have more sources of energy in this state, whether it's coal, nuclear energy, natural gas, or solar. Solar is probably the one that you've heard a little bit about here recently because there's been a little bit of pushback from Georgia Power about how much solar we're going to allow in this state. I believe that solar power is actually getting cheaper right now. In fact, I've seen that the price for solar power has gone down about 60% over the last 3 years, and it's almost got to the point where it really doesn't need to be heavily subsidized as it has in the past. So I think we're actually getting to the point where solar is actually something that may actually make sense for us as a state. And I think we need to move into that a little bit more. And it's important for us to diversify our energy portfolio because it minimizes the risk to the rest of us as ratepayers. Because if the price of natural gas goes up, or the price of coal goes up, then you have other things that you can actually depend upon to make the electricity. Another reason why I'm running is ethics. That's been a big issue here the past couple of years in the state legislature. Last year, if you'll recall, they passed a cap on the amount of money that lobbyists can give to legislators for dinners and tickets and things of that nature. I want to have no cap, just a complete ban for the Public Service Commission. If you take a look at the disclosures that the Public Service Commission has to do, you'll see that Mr. McDonald and his friends go to dinner often. Thousands of dollars a year are spent on them for dinners and golf outings and junkets to conventions and things of that nature. Bottles of wine. You'll see all sorts of gifts that are given to them. I don't understand why you need to take a commissioner out to dinner in order to talk about your client's needs. If they wanted to actually lobby the commission, they can go to the office, go to the conference room with staffers in there, and they can talk to them. There's no need to go to a golf course to be able to pitch your client's needs. You know, they do have a First Amendment right to lobby. They do that, and they can lobby on behalf of their clients, but they have no right to actually take people out to dinner and spend money on them to the tune of thousands of dollars a year. So that's my plan, is to actually put a ban, or to introduce a ban for the commission. Absolutely no dinners, golf outings, and things like that, because it's important for us to recreate the trust between the commission and the ratepayers. Because the commission really is supposed to be on our side. They're supposed to look after our interests when they set these rates. And if they're going out to dinner, and if they're going out to the golf course, and making deals behind closed doors, that frays the trust between us and the commission. That's what I want to bring back to the Public Service Commission. So go online to dougkidd.com. That's my website. You'll see a lot more. I'm just hitting the high points right now. But go online, you'll see what my issues are. Drop me an email if you have any questions, or give me a phone call. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And after the meeting, if you have any questions, just say hello. Thank you.
Anyone that has any questions for him right now? I actually have one.
Yes, sir.
We're bringing up solar. I'm kind of a, free market idealist. So my preference would be that we use whatever energy is most cost effective. So when you're talking about introducing solar, is this going to be something that we subsidize, or is it going to compete on its own merits?
It compete on its own merits. I think that the issue right now is whether we should mandate that Georgia Power take a certain amount of solar each and every year. They're opposed to that, and I'm actually a little bit opposed to that too. I don't think we're actually at the point yet right now today whereas solar is cost effective. But honestly, I think in about the next 12 to 18 months it will be effective, and no mandate will be necessary. Now, if the cost of solar reverses, because like I said, the price has been dropping over the last 3 years, if the technology, the price of it doesn't continue to drop and it goes back up, then solar is not going to make much sense. Then you'll look to coal or natural gas. That's what I was saying earlier, Bill, diversifying the portfolio. You want to have as many options available so that you can go with whichever one is cheapest at the time.
Right.
I'm guessing that solar is going to be cheaper in the future, but it may not necessarily be. But no, I'm not for any mandates that solar has to be used, or even subsidizing it. So no, I just wanted it as an option because I believe that the market prices are going to drop to where it does make sense.
Yeah, that's one of the kind of the key indicators that I always like to look at. I hear about great new technologies or fuels or whatever. How great it is kind of changes. It's not quite as cost effective. If we're pumping $1 billion worth of taxpayer subsidies into it. So, compete on its own merits, absolutely. I think it'd be wonderful.
I agree with you.
I have one other question.
Yeah, good point. You talked about the Georgia Power bill and all the add-on costs that we're incurring as Georgians. What can we do about that? What can you do about it? What will you do about it? Because I don't like paying anything more than I have to.
Right. Well, as many of y'all know, that Georgia Power, in order to increase its rates, actually has to go before the commission and get approval for those increases. Unfortunately, the 5 members that have been on the commission here recently pretty much give them the rate increases that they want. Maybe not exactly 100% what they want, but it's more than what it was. The way to change that is to change your commissioners. You need people in there that actually look after ratepayers and put them first, and that's what I promised to do.
Georgia Power, we have Plant Bowen up here, which has been a really great partner for us and tries to do a lot of the right things. For example, they had a limestone project where, they take the bad stuff and mix together, makes gypsum, and they recycle it for wallboard and pecan growers, and they recycle ash and all that for roads with carpetbacking, etc. The EPA comes in, and what they're wanting to do is to make, if it has anything to do with coal, they're wanting you not to be able to recycle anything from that process, which is just stupid. Is there anything in your position to where you can add on or whatever to help resist the EPA from a lot of these actions that are just going to add to your bill because you have to do more stuff? Like, for example, we breathe out carbon dioxide, and now they're wanting them to find a way to put it in the ground or some stupid stuff like that when our plant life needs it to survive. So is there anything that you can do in your position to help kind of tackle on with other elected officials to kind of stop their overreaching? They'll have like a law that big, and then I think I saw 3 6-foot piles of regulation that they came from that little bitty law.
Unfortunately, I don't think so, because like you said, it's the EPA, which is the federal government, and as most of y'all know, the federal government passes laws or regulations, it preempts anything that the state may want to do. I can take a look at it and see if there's anything around the edges that we may be able to do to help them out for that, but pretty much if the EPA has passed a regulation, as with healthcare or anything else, we've got to follow it. We may not like it, but we've got to do it.
Maybe a lot of people could just tack on if you have state officials or whatever, just to
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
that's
back our people for doing the right thing.
right.
So,
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know your opponent or you don't have a dog in the fight, but if I heard you correctly, you said that people don't have a right to take people out to dinner and go to the golf course, and we should create a ban. But wouldn't it be a better solution, rather than creating bans and new laws and increasing the size of government, if we just elected people who just say no and don't go to the golf course?
But you're right. You're absolutely right. And I'll get into that more specifically. When I say create a band, it would be basically, the commission itself, there are 5 of them. They can create their own internal rules that won't bind any future commissions into the future, just be whatever during that term. And so I would, if elected, I would propose that all 5 of us wouldn't go out to dinner or wouldn't go to the golf course with the lobbyists. I imagine that would be voted down 4-1. However, I will promise, I will not go to dinner with any lobbyists. I don't play golf, so you don't have to worry about that. And, I'm not saying don't talk to lobbyists, because there may be some lobbyists in here. They're presenting their client's case. That's fine. Come to the PSC office. Go to the conference room, because we have staffers who are knowledgeable. Pitch your client's idea. If it's a good idea, we'll run with it. If it's not, then we won't. But when you go out to dinner and everything like that, I know there's some legislators in here who I'm not indicting y'all. I promise I'm not. But it's really not necessary to go to the golf course to talk about an idea. If it's a good idea, do it in the conference room. And with your staffers there, that's all I'm proposing. So yeah, if elected, that's what I'll do. Yes, sir.
I like your stance on ethics, and I hope that in the Georgia State Legislature, since Roy Barnes and the Democrats were in charge, they instituted a no open records check. And here we are in 2014, and I hope your leadership, what you're saying is an anomaly, and I hope people in here realize that what you're saying right now is what's wrong with most of what's wrong with our country in terms of leadership, not the government. So I hope our state legislators, both Senate and House, will finally overturn what the Democrats did and have open records and transparency so we can determine who exactly has been where. And it sounds like we're going to know exactly where you are and where you're going to be standing. And I applaud that.
Well, I appreciate that, but to be clear, what I'm proposing would be an internal rule that the PSC would apply to itself. Those sorts of things that you're talking about would have to, the legislature applies their own rules. So, if that is important to y'all, talk to your legislators. Talk to the people running against them, see if they can get on board if that's important to you. I think it is for my race, and I think it is for other races as well. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
As a senior, I'm on a budget plan with Georgia Power, so I know how much I have to pay every month. And I didn't go over my spending on my power bills and that last year, but or the year before that. But they increased by nearly $40 more per month, the budget plan. And I assume that's because of all these extra little tack-ons that have been added to the bills. Can you assure seniors that they're not going to have, it's going to blow us out of the water in our budgets if we always have to worry about having all these extra expenses added to our bills?
I would like to be able to assure seniors. I'd like to be assure everybody in here. You'll know the way I vote, because I believe that I'd be on your side and I would vote against these rate increases. But it takes a majority to do that. There's 5 members on there. It's funny that you say that. The Public Service Commission actually has a more direct impact on your pocketbook than a U.S. Senate candidate or even a governor candidate, because we actually affect your power bill, we affect your gas bill and the phone bill as well. So yeah, it's a very important office that unfortunately a lot of people in the state don't really understand that it's on the ballot first off, or who's even running for it. But no, you have my promise that I'll actually look after your interest in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, thanks for sharing with us this morning. Undoubtedly, energy providers are going to petition the commission for a rate increase. It always happens as you alluded to. What's the criteria you plan to use to make a decision? It can't be as simple as the answer is always no.
That's
What's the
correct.
criteria you plan to use?
That's great. I mean, there may be actual instances where a rate increase is needed. But as of right now, Georgia Power pretty much wants to be guaranteed a 10.5% profit each year, every year. I don't know, do we have any business owners in here? Would y'all love to be guaranteed a 10.5% profit each year, every year, regardless of what happens? Now, you know, the PSC regulates monopolies. I mean, that's just what Georgia Power is, and part of the deal between government and the business with a monopoly is they guarantee that you're going to get a profit if you provide good, safe, stable service. And Georgia Power does do that. They're a good company. Like I said, I'm a Georgia Power customer. When my power goes out, it's pretty much fixed within hours, basically. So I'm not trashing Georgia Power. But at the same time, we have to realize that 10.5% or 11% profit each and every year may not be what they need. So, if there's an instance where they need a rate increase in order to improve the electric grid, and they show that they actually have to have that rate increase or it will not get done, then we'll have the rate increase. I don't think they've shown that. Yes, sir.
I think one thing to point out, and I don't know what the percentages should be in fair, but one thing people have to realize, if you want solar, there's a cost to build solar. If you want nuclear, there's a cost to build nuclear. And that's, you want it from 99.7% better or whatever what's coming out of those stacks, there's a cost to that. And that's what that extra thing is on your bill.
Yep.
So if you want that stuff, there is a cost.
I will point out that there's been an issue from Georgia Power about people who want solar on their own homes because, like I said, it's gotten cheaper and a lot of people aren't doing it. And so, that solar technology will be good, 60% of the time or whatever, but the other 40% of the time they'll actually have to use the electric grid. Georgia Power wants to, put a fee on top of that so that, they have a convenience fee basically to use the grid. I don't think that's unreasonable. We can argue over whether it should be $20 a month or $30 or whatever, but to actually have a fee for the convenience of using the grid when your solar power is not in use, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.